All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Wolves Den TV. We are back with another video. Today, we are not talking about video games in general. We are talking about hardware. We are talking about the Steam Deck, Valve Steam Deck in 2026. Is it worth it? Is it worth buying now? Was it ever worth buying? All these questions we are going to answer. We're going to get right into it. I got my notes. I'm going to try not to ramble. We're going to get into this for sure. But so for context, I've had my Steam Deck for 4 years now, which is crazy because it feels like yesterday. But when I look back on it, I have moved like 3 times since then. Shout out to the Nightcast, by the way. This is a late night recording right now. We're in the new spot. We just moved in. We're giving you guys some content. It's going to be fun. So I've had my Steam Deck for 4 years, and it's my go-to handheld. I've had a Switch. I've had every handheld as a kid and all this stuff. This handheld is definitely my go-to. We're going to talk a little bit about like how is this fitting in your schedule? Why is a handheld even better? Why not get a PS5? All that kind of stuff. We're going to get into that. But even though I've had it for 4 years, right, the battery life is still really solid. Now we're going to talk about what games you should play on this and what experience you're going to get. But right off rip, I want you to know that even if you are attempting to play AAA games on there, you're going to get about like an hour to an hour and a half of really intensive performance on games. So you're playing Cyberpunk or whatever, you're going to get good performance. The trade-off is the battery life will be low. It is a handheld though, right? So depending on how you're going to use it, that might be an issue. But if you're playing simple games, which is what I tend to play on here, which we'll get into that, then you are going to get a ton of battery life, man. This thing is definitely impressive. First off, I need to mention that this is the LCD Steam Deck, okay? We're going to talk about the difference, but this is the one that came out right when it came out. This is not the OLED, and we're going to talk about the difference because it's more than just the screen quality. But I really enjoy playing indie games and small games on here, and we're going to talk about that and talk about why. I don't even attempt to play the AAA games though, because it can run, like I said, it can run well, but you want to experience great graphics on the biggest screen you possibly can at the highest fidelity. My last review was Final Fantasy 16, and I was thinking, would this game have been nearly as good if it was on a handheld? It would be amazing that a game like that can be in the palm of your hand, but let's be honest, man, like the big boss fights and all that stuff, you want that on the biggest screen as possible. Now, if it's the only way that you have access to play PC games, then this thing is amazing. It can play your Red Deads, it can play Cyberpunk, but if you do have a PlayStation, an Xbox, or a PC, and you have access to playing it on a bigger screen for those bigger games, I think this thing is great if this is the only access you have to PC gaming. Play everything on there, like I said. But if you have the option to play a Red Dead 2 on a handheld or on the big screen, go ahead and play it on the big screen. Now, obviously, I'm kind of a nerd. I've got a PlayStation, I've got a PC, I've got a Switch, I've got a Steam Deck. We're going to talk about how this fits into my life personally. So I prefer to play big AAA games in a big AAA way. And the handheld, we're going to talk about why this has been so awesome though, okay? So I keep that for the desktop, the big games. Now, this device, simply put, the best way I can put it is it reminds me that games are meant to be fun. Gameplay over visuals all day. That's why most games on here that I do play are smaller, because when I pick up the device, I know I'm like 30 seconds away from just having some fun. It's that simple. You know, later I'll talk about my favorite games that I've played on here over the years, but if we look at my library, let's go ahead and grab it. These are a bunch of smaller games. Shout out Cult of the Lamb. We're going to get deep into why this game is so fun. Bayonetta, Assassin's Creed, Persona 5. Plucky Squire, I can't wait to play this game. I haven't played it yet, but I have it. Mafia 2, Resident Evil 5. So you're going to notice a theme. These are essentially a lot of indie games. Marshall, Resident Evil, Mafia, what are you talking about? However, if it was a huge franchise game, it was on a generation ago or about 2 generations ago. So that's mainly why the Steam Deck does so well. It's great. It's great for AAA games of the previous generation, because the Steam Deck's power is basically comparable to a PS4, right? But it's even able to push higher frame rates because most games on the PS4 were capped at 30. So you can play like some of your best games from the PS4 era, Uncharted, whatever isn't available on the PC, on the Steam store, right? It can play all of the PS4 generation games better than a PS4. So that's the main catch. You think about what your favorite games were from the PS4 and imagine playing that in handheld mode. and it runs better. And that's in 2026. It ran this well 4 years ago when I bought mine in 2022. So that's what's insane. For example, we're going to talk about previous generation games. One of my favorite games came out early in high school for me. I'm 25. Fallout 4 blew my mind. I played on Xbox One or whatever. Like, whoa. Okay, dude, I did a whole playthrough of Fallout 4. Every DLC, every faction complete, all that stuff on my Steam Deck. And this was in 2022 or 2023. Like, that blew my mind to have a world that big in my hands. Okay. Huge game in my hands. Tons, just so immersive, all this stuff. But on top of that, it ran at 60 frames per second perfectly on a handheld. Meanwhile, when I played this on an Xbox in high school, it was like locked at 30 and it was like 720p or whatever. It looks like garbage. This thing is amazing. So that's not what I ever thought was even possible. I had so much fun on that playthrough, 60 plus hours, handheld, open world, all that stuff. I couldn't believe it. So we talked about this already. This is the LCD version. So let's go over some basic features of the Steam Deck and how it differentiates, right? So first thing you're going to notice is you got your 2 thumbsticks up top. Okay. I have no stick drift. I've put a good amount of time into this, granted that I've had 4 hours. You got really solid sticks, no stick drift. You got your buttons up here right next to the right stick. So these are like symmetrical and up top. I think Nintendo and Xbox have it opposite, right? Like on your Xbox controller, high and low. PlayStation is symmetrical on the same horizontal axis, but it's lower. The ergonomics of the Steam Deck feel really good. So let's just go ahead and give a quick size comparison. It feels pretty good. It's actually a lot thinner than you think. Now, if it's the first time that you've ever held a handheld like this, it's going to feel massive, but it actually feels pretty thin. It feels really good. The only other accessory I have on here is just an anti-glare, which you wouldn't be able to guess for how much glare that is, but you should see my light setup. It's crazy. So you got the thumbsticks here. Now these here are 2 trackpads. I don't know how well you can see that, but they act as mouse trackpads. So the left one acts as a D-pad, and see how we can click on that. And the right one acts like a mouse cursor. That's really good if you're playing games that really specialize in mouse and keyboard. I just don't really play those games. I've heard this is great for like strategy games and stuff. I'm a bro gamer. I'm playing like console type games. I'm using the sticks all day. Triggers and bumpers feel great, as well as you have 4 extra programmable buttons back here. I never really use that, but if you go at any point to a game, you can customize its controls. And that's really cool. So if you're playing any game at all, you can customize the controls. That's not mind-blowing. You probably know about this by now with programmable back buttons on other devices. But what is cool is a game like Resident Evil 5 has some janky controls. You can sit there and program the entire controls yourself. Or Steam has had this community layout feature where some nerd, shout out to the nerds, we love you guys, has already made the perfect setup and put it on there, and I just click his and I download it, and now it's perfectly set up. And he might be taking advantage of these back buttons or not, but the control customization is amazing. The buttons feel high quality, and this is 4 years after launch. This thing still feels great. This runs USB-C charging. You got vents on top, you got minus and plus volume, and you got a 1/8-inch headphone jack there. On the bottom, micro SD slot. Shout out to that. I think, honestly, I don't know off the top of my head what storage this has. Let's take a look. By default, the storage is 225 gigabytes on this model. Obviously, they have higher ones. And then I put a 500 gigabyte SD card in this thing. I have so many games on this thing. It's absurd. Okay, so that's over the features. That's over this. Now, what is the difference between the OLED and the LCD Steam Deck? Because we're not just talking about, is the Steam Deck worth it? We need you to understand, if you want one or not, we need you to understand, well, which one should I buy? So Valve did something really cool. Steam Deck launches in like February of 22, and then the OLED launches, I think, in 24, I think. It took some time. Now, the Steam Deck OLED makes you think of the Nintendo Switch OLED. Everything is the same components, everything is the same, but now we've got this beautiful color OLED screen. That is not the only difference with the Steam Deck OLED, okay? The LCD Steam Deck is not an OLED display. It is a high quality, like 800 or 720p display. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it looks really good. Now, that seems like a low resolution, but that's because it's such a small screen, right? But what's happening is, I don't know if you can see this, but there are black bar bezels, okay? Now, the OLED will take up all of that. The bezels are much smaller, so the screen is a little bit bigger. It bumps up the refresh rate to 120 hertz, I believe, instead of 60. And so it's higher resolution, higher frame rate, and you have an OLED, and I think you have a better battery. So it is actually like a mid-generation refresh or sequel in terms of performance, because it's not the same with a better screen. It is a full improvement. So I don't know what the prices of these are currently at with the chip shortage and everything like that. My recommendation is, if you're already interested, you need to be hopping on Facebook Marketplace right now and trying to buy one secondhand. That's what I did right when it came out, and I got it for a great price. And the OLED screen is beautiful. If you've ever used an OLED monitor or a Switch OLED, like, OLED is that good. The display is amazing. Now, I have the LCD, so it's not OLED. The colors really, really look good, okay? I'm kind of a snob, man. Like, I'm a graphics snob. And this thing looks amazing. In 4 years, I have not noticed downgrades. I have not been jealous of other handhelds. I have not been FOMO. This thing looks great. We're going to get into some of the plugins and some of the modifications and enhancements you can do, but just know that there's a really popular one that essentially mimics OLED by making the vibrancy much, much better. So now we've talked about the difference between the OLED and the LCD versions. The OLED has got a lot more going on. All right, so now let's talk about the other probably the biggest elephant in the room. Right now, everything I've been saying is positive, and what I'm about to say is the truth, but it's not going to sound positive. This is going to make a lot of you click off the video, make a lot of you go, okay, so I don't want it. So let me just say it. Let me stop beating around the bush. The Steam Deck basically doesn't support multiplayer of anything, okay? What you are thinking of is, oh, sick. Just like me when I first got this, oh, cool, I can play Call of Duty. Oh, cool, I can play Fortnite. I can play Battlefield. Okay, so it can't do that. I want to make that very, very clear. Now let's talk about why it can't do that, and why I don't care, and why you shouldn't care either. Okay, so the Steam Deck uses a Linux software, right? So Steam OS that you're seeing there, it looks beautiful, looks great, looks like a console OS. It's running on Linux, okay? Not Windows, nothing like that. It runs on Linux, which means no multiplayer games. That is because publishers do not let their anti-cheat software that first off, those stink nowadays. Have you played Call of Duty lately? There's hackers everywhere. But the softwares they use to stop hackers from coming is an anti-cheat software that is built on Microsoft Windows, essentially. So if you are not playing on a Microsoft Windows device like Linux, you can't play that. That means no Call of Duty, no Battlefield, no Destiny, no Fortnite, whatever. Because those games take up a huge percentage of overall gamers' player time, those people will not be happy to find that the Steam Deck can't play those games. But it doesn't bother me at all. Let's talk about why it shouldn't bother you. Let's be honest. I like casually playing these games. Call of Duty sucks now. If it was great, I'd still be playing it. I'll play Fortnite casually. Battlefield, not the biggest fan of. Destiny, no thank you. The point is that it sounds like it would be so sick to be able to play these games on handheld. But let's get into why. First off, I've always preferred single player games over multiplayer, except for when COD was in its prime, right? If COD was in its prime, dude, I would not be playing any other game. It's just that fun, but they're just not that. They just don't appeal to me anymore. Never got deep into Rivals or Overwatch. But that's my point. Think about Marvel Rivals and Overwatch. Multiplayer games are competitive by nature, so why would you want to play that on a small screen? Think about it. Think about this, or picture this. You're playing Battlefield or Overwatch on a 7-inch small display, and the enemy team is running 144 hertz monitors, ultra wide, 4K. Bro, they're gonna stomp you. Okay, if you're playing on a PC handheld against people on an actual PC with mouse and keyboard, and you're playing on this thing, dude, you're gonna get destroyed. I think Halo Infinite is like one of the multiplayer games that does actually run on this thing. You can Google it, and some things have changed, of course. Warframe probably works, not really PvP, whatever. The point is, bro, I played Halo Infinite on this, and I'm getting destroyed, and I said, oh yeah, because it thinks I'm playing on PC, so I'm playing against guys on mouse and keyboard, and I'm on this tiny display. It goes back to my earlier point, like with Final Fantasy 16. If you're playing something competitive, you want that on the best possible, you want every advantage you can get, so you want the best possible resolution and frame rate and all that stuff. That's not what the Steam Deck is. The Steam Deck and handhelds in general are selling you accessibility and portability, but it's not the highest tier way to play a game, right? This would actually be the worst possible way to play a competitive game, in the same way that it's not the best way to experience some high fidelity mega action game, right? So now, you know, you're getting a good informed opinion on what it's good for, what it's not good for, what our quirks are. Okay. Now, you might have also heard that there are other PC handhelds now. Go tell your dad, go tell your grandpa what a PC handheld is. He's gonna be like, what the heck are you even talking about? Okay. So there are now handheld gaming PCs that have come out post Steam Deck. For reference, when I first got mine, there was no ROG Ally, there was no Lenovo Legion Go. The other handheld PCs didn't exist. There were small ones, AYN Neo or Thor or something like that. I think the Thor is the new one. It looks sick, by the way. But that thing didn't really exist yet. So the question is how does my 4-year-old Steam Deck, not even the OLED, or how does Steam Deck in general compare to these other guys? Well, let's be honest. It has an advantage over all the other devices, and it is better than the other devices. I will tell you that right now. Okay, it is better. But how can the screen on the other devices, all the screens are faster, higher resolution, the chips are better, the battery is better, everything on paper is better about the other handhelds. So why do I still think the Steam Deck is better? Am I getting paid by Valve? No. Everything about the other ones is better on paper. Bigger and better displays, yeah. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter, okay? Because if you have the fastest bicycle in the neighborhood, you still feel small when you pull up next to a Hummer. Does that make sense? It's still a handheld, okay? It has diminishing returns after a certain point. There is a certain ceiling that you are going to get in fidelity and overall experience on a handheld, right? So the bicycle and Hummer analogy is ridiculous, but it's true. Oh, bro, my handheld has, 20% more pixels, and my thing is this much bigger, and, this and that, bro. Then you go to your friend's house who's got this huge, nice 4K TV, and he's playing the same game, and you're like, oh man, it has diminishing returns. The fact that any handheld has 120 hertz display is ridiculous. Why would you want a frame rate that high to play Minecraft better? To play my indie games at 120? Come on, that's overkill. So the price to Steam Deck is here, and then the price range for these other ones, yeah, you're getting better performance. You're paying way more. 120 hertz, 1080p displays or whatever on a handheld, it's overkill, bro. It's ridiculous. It is better, but it's overkill. It's not necessary. Just go play a game on the PlayStation 5. Go play it on your PC. It's silly, right? It has diminishing returns, like I said. At a certain threshold, those massive games are just better experience on a bigger display. It makes so much sense. You wouldn't mind watching like a cartoon on a tablet, right? But when it comes to a Hollywood action film, you want that on IMAX. You want that in theater. You want the full experience. That's kind of how handhelds work. If there's a new AAA game that you're excited for, we're going to use Crimson Desert because I just talked about it. Can this run Crimson Desert? Yes. Probably. Will it be at like 30 frames a second, heavily AI artifacted? Like, no, dude, I'm not doing that. If I'm going to play a game like that, I want that in the best possible experience. Does that make sense? So if they're all handhelds, like what is Steam Deck's advantage then? Okay, so it's cheaper. Okay, so we've got that. There's probably cheaper ones by now. Here's the other thing. This is the main thing. The Steam Deck is better, but it can't play multiplayer games. The other handhelds can play multiplayer games. You should be confused, okay? How can the Steam Deck be better if it's cheaper, less powerful, and it also can't run the games that most of us want to play? Here's the problem. Running Linux is not the problem, even though Linux is why it can't run multiplayer games. That's actually what saves the Steam Deck. Windows is the problem. You can run Call of Duty and all these other games because of the anti-cheat Windows-based handhelds. But guess what? You don't want to, because Windows runs terribly on a touchscreen, runs terribly on these handhelds. Windows itself is so resource heavy that just by running Windows, you're taking up, computing power. And then it's clunky, it's unintuitive. I've heard the ROG Ally and these other ones, they're on paper really powerful devices, but there's no cohesive console-like smooth experience to go sit down and just play a game. Right? On all this, I have Devil May Cry, Halo, Hades, Mafia. I got all these games right here, and I can just boot it up and have a nice console experience. On the ROG Ally and the Windows-based ones, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump to, and it's unintuitive. So you can play those games, but again, let's keep going back to this question. Do you want to? Now that you're like maybe considering what I'm saying, does it actually sound fun to play Call of Duty on this thing? You're tactical sprinting, you're sliding, come on, bro, on a handheld, like, no, trust me, I've tried it. It's not that good. And that was my dream as a kid, and it's not that good. SteamOS just works. They spent years making Linux compatible with Proton layers and all these internal things that they have. Bro, every single game I've ever tried works flawlessly. They have a little badge icon thing that'll tell you, does this work? Does it not work? I've tried games that don't work. They work fine. There's levels to it. Like if you have to, for example, in a RPG, if you need to name your character, that alone needs you to pull open the virtual keyboard, and that like takes you out of it. So that I think that still doesn't meet the requirement of like perfect optimization, because you have to pull out the virtual keyboard and type your like stupid name for your character generator, right? This thing just works. If it's a single player game, it doesn't require anti-cheat. I don't think I've ever ran into a game that was borked that didn't work. Like it completely blew my mind. I remember like early on, Batman Arkham. Actually, I got it right here. Batman Arkham City. Okay, it has gold status now, which means it's super compatible. There was a Batman game though, I remember back in the day, that said it wasn't compatible. Maybe a Borderlands. I can't remember. Something with a B. Anyways, I pulled up. Ran amazing. Like insane quality, insane compatibility. This thing is nuts. It'll blow your mind. It blew my mind when I first had it. It's 4 years later. I spent more time understanding this tech, understanding gaming and computers more, and it blows my mind even more. Yeah, this thing has got insane depth too. If you want just like an idiot mayonnaise brain like me, pull open the thing, have a beautiful cohesive console experience, it will get you that. Now, if you like to tinker and open up the hood, that's where the real fun comes in. Let's not forget that this is a personal computer running Linux, okay? So this is a nice curated little software experience, but at any point, you can open up desktop mode and it will look like to you, Windows, it will be a file explorer and a browser and this and that leaves the door open. It's a personal computer, so that leaves the door open from everything from like emulating every console that's available on your PC. If you can think of a retro console, you can emulate it. All the old stuff, definitely. You can emulate Switch games, you can emulate newer consoles. So this leaves the door open for all the emulation and sailing the seven seas, if you know what I mean, because it's just a darn computer. So you can download things locally, you can download things on a hard drive and plug it right in. If you know what I mean, this thing is crazy for that. So Valve spent years after the Steam machines failed. These were like their first attempts at running SteamOS on these computers to make a console-like experience, and it didn't work well. It had its own problems. That can be a video for another day. But the Proton system, this series of systems I believe that they created, are just the back end to make every single game compatible with Linux. Because when you and I boot up computers, I'm recording this on a MacBook and I'm gaming on a Windows PC, we're not really experienced with Linux very well, but they worked with Linux to make an incredible software that runs so well. Now, the other thing that's great, we're going to wrap this up because I know this is taking a while. Make sure you're putting this video on 3 times speed. You got a drink, you got some food to eat. Hopefully you're just relaxing listening to this, giving me my 2 cents. The other thing is, so what has like changed in the 4 years of me owning a Steam Deck? Well, it's actually only gotten better, right? Your PS4, you turn that thing on, sounds like a damn jet engine, okay? When I turn my Steam Deck on after 4 years, it's not that it's loud, it's actually that it's gotten better in every single way. There are mods, there are tools to customize the look and the performance. Performance has gotten better. More games come out every single day and they get compatible. Let's not forget that Steam is by far the cheapest way to play games. It's expensive to get a gaming PC, I'll give you that. But this thing costs the same as any console probably, if not cheaper. And then all of your games are way cheaper. You can sail the 7 seas if you want. You can buy Steam keys. That's what I do. I love buying Steam keys. That's why my Steam library is huge, because every game's like $1. Totally legal, totally normal. I love it. It's only gotten better. Now, if you're anything like me too, I check the Epic Games Store like once a week when I'm in the middle of taking a break from work, and they give away 2 free games a week. Or in Christmas time, they give away one free game every day in December. So my Epic Games library is hundreds of games deep, sometimes bangers, right? And I've never paid for a game on Epic, and I've got like 300 games on there from having a computer for like 5 years. Dude, the whole time this was only accessible to Steam games. Now some guy, there's a thing called Decky Loader that's like the biggest hub for all of the mods that you want to do. You just install it once. It's really, really easy, really user friendly. Some guy through Decky Loader made it so that you can load all your Epic games on there. Now that is not like something to scoff at. That's like a huge deal, okay? Because for example, in my Steam library, haven't spent that much money. In my Steam library, I have 173 games. Okay, so those are all games that I had to pay for one way or another. But in my Epic Games, I really hope this is open. I should have done more prep. My Epic Games library, dude, these are just the ones that are loading right now. Never paid. These are all free. Okay, if I keep going, dude, it's hundreds. It's hundreds. So these are all games, that have been free over the last couple of years. Alien Isolation, all of the Amnesia games, Assassin's Creed Unity, every single BioShock, Borderlands 3, dude, Castlevania, Chivalry, Control. I mean, I can go on to Death Stranding, Deathloop, one of my favorite games, Dragon Age, any game you can think of. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I have access to all these games through Epic. Too bad I can't play it on my Steam Deck. And then one day some guy finds a way to make it compatible with Steam Deck inside of Decky Loader. So easy. That's a crazy example of how these things improve over time. And little pro tip for all of you out there that are thinking about getting a Steam Deck and have never PC gamed, just open up an Epic Games account. You probably already have one with Fortnite, and add those free games to your account every 2 weeks. Even if you don't get a PC for another year, bro, you will be stacking up games, and you will be surprised how many bangers there are on there. I got GTA 5 for free, like half the 2Ks, every single BioShock. Dude, we can do a whole different video on the Epic Games method. A free game a day in December? Why wouldn't you do that? So when do I use my Steam Deck? If I travel, which I don't do much, that's a great one. Used to on work breaks, don't really do it. Hop on the airplane. Now the best one is if a girlfriend, family member or friend or something is like watching TV, especially it's something you do not want to watch. Dude, you pull up the Steam Deck, she's up next to you happy, watching her show, you're vibing out playing some game. Win. It reminded me in general of how much better games used to be, because I can play older games at a 60 FPS frame rate that you never played when you were a kid. Enjoy the retro music and sound design, all that stuff. It also helps me play games that I never would have played if this plopped up on my PlayStation, right? I fell victim to the trap of this graphics have to be the biggest, the baddest, the best. Playing the Steam Deck helps you remember that games are just supposed to be fun and you can appreciate the good art. That's why I wanted to shout out Cult of the Lamb. It's easily a top 10 game of me of all time, by far. And it was the second game I ever got on my Steam Deck after Vampire Survivors, obviously. But bro, Cult of the Lamb, that's like one of the best games I've ever played, hands down. I never would have played that game if I had to sit down on my couch and play it on a big screen. There are some games that are just built and born for a handheld like the Steam Deck, and it makes you find those gems, and you have so much fun with it. Cult of the Lamb, I have to replay that game every single year. I do. And then they just dropped a huge expansion. Haven't had any time to play it. I've been so busy, but I can't wait to hop into that. Like, there are some games where you go, oh, I don't know this. You get a Steam Deck and you go, oh, this would be perfect for my Steam Deck. My girl's gonna watch The Bachelor this weekend. I don't want to watch that, but I got a whole new banger to play through on my Steam Deck, and she's happy. Like, it changes the game, man. This thing rules. I'm not gonna lie. It's so much fun. So it's just the perfect place to play smaller games in this form factor, right? If you're curious about these games, but like I said, you just think it's overkill to play on a huge TV, I actually get that. Like, some games are perfect for these handhelds. It will change your gaming habits, and it will definitely open your mind to what you might want to try. I've only ever played like Call of Duty character action games, quit in college, and when I got the Steam Deck, it really opened my eyes to games being art, playing fun, relaxing, silly games. So last but not least, what we want to do is I want to just list a couple of my favorite games that I've played on the Steam Deck. These are games that I only played on the Steam Deck, and if I want to go back and replay them, even if I owned it on any device, why I would play it on the Steam Deck again. First and foremost, number one of all time, this is depending on the day you ask me, this might be my favorite game ever, and I'm honored that it was one of the early games I played on the Steam Deck. Persona 5 Royal, one of the greatest games of all time ever made. Best soundtrack to any game probably ever, and the only one that would beat it is another Persona game. The fact that I played this like 120-hour JRPG on a handheld was peak. Okay, that was one of the best game experiences I ever had, bar none. This thing rules. I'm so glad I played it on here. Recently, just played Mafia Definitive Edition for the first time. I played every Mafia game on the Steam Deck except for Old Country. So much fun. Here's another one. I'm going to eat my words a little bit because I said, oh, I only play smaller games. Mafia Definitive Edition, that's a good looking game. Ran well. Want to know another one? I played all of Resident Evil 8 Village on my Steam Deck. Ran amazing. So much fun. A horror game on a handheld like that. Are you crazy? I've got a decent PC. I've got a PlayStation 5. I've got a big TV, and I still chose to play it on a handheld. That sounds stupid now that I think about it, and I don't regret it at all. It was insane playing on a handheld. Dude, that was awesome. Broforce. Crazy indie game with an insane soundtrack. Heard my favorite comedians talking about it, went and played it. Loved it. Indie banger. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. Best name of a game ever. That is a Steam Deck coded game through and through. It's like if Tony Hawk had a baby with Jet Set Radio. This game rules. So much fun on a handheld. Great game anywhere. OlliOlli World. So good I bought it 2 times, and then I bought the DLC. So I bought it on my PlayStation 5 when it came out because I love this series, and then I bought it on my Steam Deck, and then I bought the DLC on my PlayStation 5, knowing that I was only going to play it on my Steam Deck because I wanted to support these developers. This game rules. If you haven't played OlliOlli World, shut off this video. Stop. What are you doing? Go play that game. It's so good, and it's even better on a handheld. OlliOlli World, OLLI, Ollie World. Fallout 4 New Vegas. Come on, New Vegas, you know what's up. Best game ever made. Top 5, top 10. Crazy good on a handheld. Are you crazy? Ghost Runner, super fun. Neon White, okay. Top 3 games I ever played on my Steam Deck. Probably Persona. Probably Persona, Neon White, and who cares about the third one, the OlliOlli World. The point is that Neon White is the best game. You've probably never heard of it. Go play it right now. I don't care what you have to do to go play that game. Go play that game right now. So good. So glad I played it on here. Brotato, come on. It's actually better than Vampire Survivors. That's my hot take. Brotato is the best game of that genre. I got so hooked. I was embarrassed how much time I have played on that. I will not tell y'all. I love that game. Pick up the game. It's so much fun. You immediately have fun. Diablo 4. Yeah, I played that on my Steam Deck. That's crazy. That's crazy to think about. I emulated all the old Tony Hawk games, PS2 era Tony Hawk games, even the new Pro Skater 1 and 2 remastered. Played all the way through Nier Automata and Batman Arkham Knight. Those are just some of the highlights of the games that I played on here. So much fun. So as you can see, this is a mix of tiny games, big games, 2D, 3D, action, sports. If you can think of it, it can all run in 2026 unless it's multiplayer. It's my favorite, last one of my closing statements. Of all of the gaming tech that I've ever owned, when it comes to overall bang for your buck, what you're getting for your money, I think this is the best purchase I've ever made in my entire life. I love this thing. And you know what's so crazy? When I bring this around my friends, even some of my nerd friends, they go, what is that? It's like a Switch? Yeah, it's like a Switch. The fact that this thing is this sick and not like none of my friends recognize it, it's like still criminally underrated. Valve is clawing their way tooth and nail at the greedy like PlayStation and Xbox market share. They're offering the best products ever, and it's just funny to me that a lot of people haven't heard about it. And you need one, straight up. If you like this kind of stuff, you need one. I brought it to my friend. We were getting nostalgic about LA Noire and Mafia 2. I just came to his house, had a couple drinks, we were hanging out, and I showed him, I said, hey, I want you to unlock this thing. He's like, what is it? It's like a Switch. He's like the 10th person that told me that. I love that. I said, just unlock it, turn it on. When he realized that he had Mafia 2 in his hands, I'll never forget the face he made. I was like, yeah, that's what it's about. This thing is awesome. So it's big games, small games, 2D, 3D, action, sports, you name it. It can run everything. Best bang for your buck gaming device I've ever bought. I love my PlayStation 5. I love my desktop. If my house was burning down and I could only pick one thing, I think I might actually pick this. Now my desktop is way more expensive and has all my work stuff on it. My MacBook's really important. So if I could skip those, one gaming thing, bro, I'm picking this over my PS5. I'm picking this over on gaming on my PC. I love the Steam Deck, and I think you will too. I don't game a lot anymore, but whenever I boot it up, I know that there's new features, there's new updates, and I'm like seconds away from having so much fun. If you've got a girlfriend, bro, you need this thing, okay? She's not gonna want you playing that game on the big screen. She's gonna be watching her show, but she doesn't want her man to be in the other room hunched over, and I get that. Dude, sit next to her, pick up one of this. Pick up this thing, have some fun. She's gonna love it. It's a win-win. So my closing thoughts are simple. If you like single player games, if you travel, if you want a game but you find it hard to find the time, the Steam Deck is the thing for you, okay? It's cheaper than it's ever been. I think because of the chip shortage, it's hard to get them like directly retail through them, so you can pick up one secondhand. If you want to do that, I would check Facebook Marketplace today. I know I constantly do that to see if I can upgrade to an OLED for like nothing. This thing rules. There's a million use cases, and even for a nerd like me who has a decently powerful computer in terms of relatively to gaming, like in the gaming world, it's not that powerful. I think it's a 3060 Ti, right? But compared to Steam Deck, this thing is a beast, and I'm unbelievably grateful for what I have, right? It's unbelievable. But despite having a PC, I had an Xbox at one point, I got a PlayStation, I got a Switch, of all of these things, this thing is the best bang for your buck. I love the Steam Deck. I think you should really consider getting one. And I know that this is just me rambling and raving and just yapping, okay? And that's kind of what this channel is. It's just going to be my thoughts. I had to use my notes a little bit more for this one because there was a lot to talk about. So, if you've been enjoying this content, please leave a like, a comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. If you have a Steam Deck, tell me what you love. Tell me what your problems were. Did you have a battery life problem? If you've never heard of this, what the heck do you think of this? If you are maybe being swayed to buy one, what was it that I said in this video that really enticed you? Was it the fact that, maybe I want to try indie games? Whatever it is, I'd love to get a discussion going. I hope y'all are doing well. I hope you're enjoying this series. We're going to have a lot more going on. I have a lot more that I like to talk about. So like I said, put that video on 2x speed, grab a snack, grab a drink. We're going to be hanging out. We're going to be doing a lot more of this. So thank you all for the support. This is Wolves Den TV signing off. Have a good one.